Hello and welcome back. This is about time for our top 8 coverage here at Grand Prix Prague. We have 8 players ready to draft. In 8th place it was Fabrizio Campanino, in 7th Ropa Metza, 6th Florian Koch, 5th Youssef Kamal Vefa, in 4th place Paolo Vitor Damaderosa, 3rd Fabian Friedrich, 2nd Ivan Flock, and in 1st place Christopher Larsen. We're going to get a chance to watch 2 players over the course of this draft. First, you're going to have myself, Tim Willoughby, and Matej Zadelkai taking you through the draft of Mr. Paolo Vitor Damaderosa live as he does it here in Prague. And then while the players are building, we're going to get a chance to see Christopher Larsen as well. But let's have a look at what's in this very first pack for Paolo Vitor Damaderosa.
Yeah, interesting pack. There's an airdrop aeronauts, servo schematic, ether poisoner, another decent card. Scrounging Bandar is a card that's been doing good work this weekend. It's overly not that of an exciting pack to me.
Yeah, this is not a pack dominated by a rare in this case. Scrolling through, it looks like we're going to have a power common that more signals color preferences rather than anything else. Scrounging Bandar, fantastic if you're looking to do the green-black plan, making counters. Ether Poisoner, solid in just about every black deck, and that's the one that Paolo Vitor Damaderosa picks up. We've seen him in a lot of archetypes over the course of this weekend. He's been red-blue, he's been green-white. This time it looks like he's starting off with a black pick in that Ether Poisoner.
Yeah, and it's a super versatile pick. He can go into a bunch of different archetypes as he picks up another one. And there's the Daring Demolition as well here, which is a premium removal spell. Even though it does cost 4 mana, but it does take care of any creature. You might be considering the Windkin Raiders or the Aeronaut Admiral as flyers, but I think he's going to stay on color and get this another very universal card.
Yeah, Daring Demolition, even though it's sorcery speed, the fact that it can deal with a vehicle means that playing it at that sort of pace, you're always going to hit the thing that you really want to. Some of the sorcery speed removal before, you really wanted to hit a creature and you couldn't. There is a Renegade map in this pack, and Paolo's brought it to the front because it's one of those cards that it just fits in so many different decks, provides synergy with Improvise, it provides synergy with Revolt, and it just makes sure your mana works out. But in this case, not as good as a straightforward removal spell.
Yeah, there's a Fenho, another Renegade map, as you just said, another Ether Poison, a Fatal Push. Not as good in Limited as it is in maybe in Constructed, but still it's a fine removal spell in an early game. But Ether Poisoner, again, would be a fine choice as well. I'm actually liking the Poisoner a little bit more, but I think Paolo is going to go for the Fatal Push here.
Hard to argue with instant speed, efficient removal. It won't necessarily always hit everything you want, but Fatal Push, it's been described as push, and that's a pretty accurate description.
Yeah, and it's still it will go into a wide variety of decks, and that's why it's quite so good. But he passes down another Poisoner downstream, so he might be pretty sad about passing that one.
Lots of servo schematics going around the table. Someone's going to get an improvised deck that could be fairly potent, but if we're looking at black cards in this pack, it's not quite as exciting as previous one. There's Implement of Malice that will give it the honorary black card in there. But Servo Schematic, an interesting one. For 2 mana, you get the artifact itself and a servo. And that means that if you're looking to improvise, it's pretty potent. But on top of that, if you've got ways of sacrificing it, it gets interesting too.
He actually picked up the Servo Schematic, and I like picking up early because it makes other maybe weaker cards a little better. Maybe something like a Defiant Salvager, you can make really good use out of it. And this is still a very strong pack. Druid of the Cow still there. Ether Chaser as well, Caught in the Brights. This pack's insane.
Yeah, I mean, notable that it's a bit light on uncommons and rares suggests that downstream or upstream, I guess, of Paolo Vitor Damaderosa, there's been some real power taken in this pack. I mean, the Scrounging Bandar, he was considering it as a first pick, and looks to be looking to stick to black just now.
Yeah, I think he's keeping his options open.
Another Implement of Malice for his deck. It is card advantage. You're sacrificing it, you're drawing a card, and you're forcing your opponent to discard. It looks like that is a Piers Revolution in the pack. Obviously, if you get enough implements, that's kind of exciting, but I wouldn't want to be picking it at this point in the draft. You may well wheel it if you really want to.
This pack, on the other hand, is very weak, so he's going to take the Barricade Breaker, which is pretty good with a lot of cards he picked up, like the Servo Schematic. Even Ether Poison, creating a servo enables you to play the Barricade Breaker a little sooner. That's pretty sweet. There's a Cogwork Assembler, Unbridled Growth. No really big signals. Maybe Implement of Improvement, that's the white one. If he wants to branch out there. He doesn't seem to like the 2/3 here. Maybe picks up a foil Spire of Industry. He should have plenty of artifacts to get any color he wants.
I can't help but wonder whether or not Paolo Vitor Damarosa is hoping to see a Fenhauler come back round here.
Maybe,
He's a black deck that has picked a lot of artifacts up at this point, and Fenhauler one of the big payoffs for doing so. Let's see what's in this next pack for him.
Not much. There's the Augmenting Automaton. If he wants to really stick with the black, it's a cheap artifact that could work. Lifecraft's Awakening actually is pretty good if you have a lot of artifacts. He has the Metallic Rebuke in the top. Okay, so picking his first non-black card. Or a card that is not even an artifact.
Metallic Rebuke, you can definitely catch a few people if you get to cast it for just a single point of mana. Foundry Assembler here looks to be the pick as his pack wheels back around. You see that Hope of Girapur that he saw earlier on, didn't like the first time round, still does not like at this point in the draft.
Yeah, Foundry Assembler not exactly where you want to be. He was probably hoping to wheel some servo schematics here. Maybe he'll take a siege modification. You've seen put to good use with some Renegade Freighters.
Yeah, if you do get to stick it on a vehicle, it's a very powerful card. +3 power, first strike. Your crew is then sorted for your vehicle from then on. Currently, no copies of any vehicles in his deck. Second servo schematic, though, that means that if he's looking to improvise, he's going to be able to do so in some pretty impressive fashion.
And Countless Gears Renegade so late. What is going on here?
Yeah, the Renegade, solid as a 2/2 for 2. Occasionally, you do get the extra servo if you can enable Revolt. And Shipwreck Marae, also a card that we've seen in plenty of main decks.
Yeah.
Getting one that late in the draft signals that there are lots of different approaches being taken in the draft thus far.
He's actually be doing rather well over here. He has double servo schematic. He already picked up at least 2 improvised cards. He didn't wheel any of the Fenhaulers, which is important to note. So someone is also taking those upstream. But I think one card that could be really good for Paolo in the second pack could be the Defiant Salvager, because it works so well with the servo schematic. Just on its own would be +3/+3, and. He has also other ways to pump it as well, and it also triggers Revolt, which he can also put to good use.
All right, so plenty to think about here for Paolo after Pack 1. And one of the things that's kind of exciting to me is that going into Pack 2, if he opens a powerful rare in any color whatsoever, I think that he's got a little bit of flexibility to go into it.
Yeah, definitely. Being so heavy into black and artifacts just has this advantage, and I'm sure he'll find good use for his cards. He just, I think, needs to find more cheaper artifact, maybe a couple of more implements. He'll see what is open, but I think he would want to play that Countless Gears Renegade. It looked like it would be a good card in this archetype.
Yeah, we saw Paolo Vitor Damarosa getting into the top 8 with a fantastic match against Christian Calcano. His deck there was really chock full of rares. This time round, we haven't seen any rares making it into his pile that are particularly going to be troubling any opponents. So at the moment, all about the synergy. Let's see what he can do in Pack 2.
Yeah, slow. This top 8 table is packed with so many good players. He's sitting opposite Christopher Larsen. There's also Ivan Floch at the table. Florian Koch, a veteran at the European GP scene.
Yeah, a lot of different players to watch out for, and you do not get into the top 8 of a GP without knowing your way around the format. So this is not going to be an easy draft.
Certainly not, no. There we go. All right, so I don't think he'll want that rare, but there's an Enduring Demolition that he can pick up for his deck. Yeah, I think that might just be the card. The rest of the pack is really not that exciting.
Yeah, Winkin Raiders, while it does have that magic word, improvise, it's going to put him heavily into a second color, and Daring Demolition is a very solid card as well. Let's see what his choice is here. Yeah,
I mean, Renegade Rally is a fantastic card with Revolt and maybe some cheaper cards. So is Narnum Renegade. But the Daring Demolition is the only good black card in the pack, and it's unconditional removal. So yeah, he picks it up.
The interesting thing is that there are some occasions where you're heavy in one color after Pack 1, and you feel like you're going to get lots of that color in Pack 2 because you've cut it off. He did pass some Fenhaulers. They've all been picked up. There's nothing to say that there couldn't be someone that's trying something vaguely similar downstream of him, though there is a Fenhauler in this pack.
Yeah. And also Hungry Flames, Countless Gears Renegade, if he wants to stick with white. There's Dawnfeather Eagle. This is, I think, decision time for Paolo. He can branch out into red if he wanted to, which actually works pretty well with the rest of his cards. He can find some nice effects there. The Fenhauler is very attractive though as well.
Yeah, I'm interested in your thoughts on Inspiring Statuary in this pack. he has got a deck that could potentially use Improvise. It's kind of a mana rock that means that all of your coloured spells have Improvise if they didn't already. But ideally, if you're planning on playing that plan, you want your spells to just have Improvise.
Yeah, it's not that great. So, this Ram, Night Market Aeronaut as well. Quicksmith Rebel. That's a late pickup, and he's plenty of artifacts. Servo Schematic.
I would say that his deck is characterized as being artifacts over just about everything else. And what Quicksmith Rebel does is it says that one of your artifacts becomes a shock machine.
Yeah, and it's as you said he would open a rare. He got past a rare, and he can branch out in red. He might be regretting not picking the Hungry Flames 2 picks back when he had the chance, but Quicksmith Rebel is a sweet card to pick up. I
like the flavor text on this one. It pretty much exactly characterizes what's happening to Paolo's deck.
Yeah. Let's see. Scrapper Champion as well. Another Fen Hauler too. But I quite like the Scrapper Champion. Even though he doesn't have that much energy going on, it's still 4 mana 2/2 double strike that grows into a 3/3 double strike when it attacks is still very solid.
Yeah, it's a real choice because I do think the Fen Hauler is pretty good in this deck.
He already picked up one, and he'll probably want some more artifacts to go with it.
Let's see what comes next for Paolo, of course. After this, we will have one full pack of Kaladesh to work with. Well, there's another big removal spell here in a third copy of Daring Demolition.
It's very late, too. He already has 2 as well. He might be thinking about the implement. He has a lot of Improvise. He already has 2 of the Daring Demolitions, so I certainly wouldn't fault him for taking the black implement.
Yeah, Daring Demolition, it does cost 4, and it can get a little clunky if you have lots of things high up in the curve and not so much to do early on. And if your opponent's going wide, then this is an expensive removal spell to use on a cheap creature. That said, it'll hit the expensive creatures just fine.
Yeah, indeed. Ironclad Revolutionary is the only black card. Is Universal Solvent something he could take? Still thinking about maybe going into a different way. He's not committed either way. He only has 1 red card, so he might not have to play the red at all.
Universal Solvent's an interesting one. It does cost a lot to activate, but if you can get there, then it's a powerful effect. And in the meantime, in a deck like Paolo's, you can get value out of it.
Definitely. Okay, maybe that's the Tezzeret's Touch is something that might entice him more into blue. He's putting it to the front because the other cards are not that impressive. There's the green Implement of Ferocity. The Sly Requisition is not that great, and he goes for it.
Now, the cool thing about Tezzeret's Touch, the card that you're making into a 5/5, whether or not it's a creature or not, because it's typically been in play for a while, it's like making a 5/5 with haste. And also, you're going to get it back when it goes to the graveyard, and depending on the quality of the artifact, that can be a pretty big game.
Yeah. He now picks up another pack where there's not that much to go with, and he actually can pick up the Welder Automaton. It's a 2 mana 2/1 artifact creature. He'll put that to good use.
Yeah, it passes up on Night Market Aeronaut because while it is in his colors, it's not necessarily in his strategy.
Exactly, yeah. The Walderton seems pretty nice in this regard. I think Wrangle, he could put some use. Maybe find some Sacrifice Outlet. No, Watchful Automaton. Off color, but still, he might be blue.
He might be blue. I mean, he got that Tezzeret's Ambition, and it's the sort of thing that if he doesn't hit the mana early to be able to use the scry ability on it, that's not really a big deal because, to be honest, you don't want to be using that mana early to scry anyway.
He got the stature he's thinking about. He picked one with Metallic Rebuke pretty early in the pack. In pack 1, I think.
Yeah, giving you a non-artifact spells Improvise is interesting. It's not something that I've seen done very much in Limited, though. I think there might be room for that one in Constructed somewhere.
Yeah, probably. More likely for it to be there.
Another Metallic Rebuke, along with a pretty late Shipwreck Moray.
It's very the frontline Rebel. He could play any of these cards really in his black base deck. Goes with a Moray. Crack down Construct.
All right, so we're rounding out our Ether Revolt here in our top 8 draft for Paolo Vitor Damaderosa. Picks up just a regular 3/2 that is unlikely to be troubling his main deck here. And right now, there's still a little bit of confusion in terms of colors because he's got a very powerful red card in his Quicksmith Rebel. He's also got a very powerful blue card or 2 in there as well. I think he's probably still got a little bit of room to shimmy and work out where he wants to be. I'd be surprised if he can figure out a way of playing both easily, though Prophetic Prism in Kaladesh certainly helps with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it looks like he wants to stay red. I mean, the Quicksmith Rebel, the Scrapper Champion, and it looks like he wants to play the Siege modification, which is double red, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be aware of how problematic that might end up. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, the Welder Automaton is something he will play for sure. As you see him sort out his curve.
Yeah, and this is something that's worth remembering about the difference between this sort of a draft, or indeed the sort of draft you might do at a Pro Tour, with a draft you could do on Magic Online. You have to keep in your head how your curve looks, how your overall shape of your deck is shaping up, because you don't get to look at your cards mid-draft. And this is something that, Paolo has been around the block quite a few times. This is, I believe, his 19th GP top 8.
Jeez.
He's got 10 Pro Tour top 8s. This guy could be in the Hall of Fame 2 times over with those sorts of stats.
Definitely.
And this is his bread and butter. He's getting a feel for his deck now. When he gets told to put it down and go into pack 3, he will have a very clear idea of what he wants to do, what he wants to pick from this Kaladesh pack.
Yeah, I think what he wants to pick is just some more creatures. I think his spells are already pretty good, but I think he could use a couple of more 2 and 3 drops, especially artifacts. I'm sure he wouldn't mind an Eager Construct in there. Might find some other good stuff, but removal he has plenty.
Aetherworks Marvel is a powerful artifact. We've seen it played in Constructed and in Limited, but Snarethopter at Uncommon is one of the premium uncommons in the set. Lets him be aggressive. It's an artifact. It flies. It slices. It dices. While there is a tidy conclusion in the pack, I think that the creatures may be more important for him here than the removal. Yeah,
I also quite like the Bomat Bazaar Barge. It's also a decent card that he's not really considering just yet, because the others do seem better, and Malphite's Doorbuster is also not that bad, but I think he's going to go for the artifact. And I really like Snarethopter. This does a lot of work.
And potential to pick up something nice on the wheel here as well. A pack that had a happy number of cards that someone's going to be pleased to pick up.
Oh yeah. Spireside Infiltrator.
There's another Bazaar Barge there, so second bite at that cherry potentially.
He doesn't seem to fancy it at all, even though as a 4-mana artifact that draws a card, I actually quite like it. But Spireside Infiltrator might just be pretty good on its own. I like the Bazaar Barge you can put the Siege modification on it. That would be pretty sweet.
No, it looks like we're going for the Spireside Infiltrator here. 3/2, that when it gets tapped, you deal 1 damage to each opponent. Great if it's crewing vehicles. Pretty good if it's just attacking. 3 power on a 3 drop, kind of where you want to be in these aggressive decks.
Yeah, something that he wants is there's creatures that can also trade up. Foundry Inspector's a card I would like. Lots of red in this pack, though.
Yeah, Lathnu Hellion, a card that ultimately didn't quite follow through in Limited as being fantastic, but it certainly, if you're looking to be aggressive, gets you there. Foundry Inspector, though, does a lot for Paolo's deck.
Yeah, it ticks a lot of boxes. It's a relatively cheap artifact. It works really well with Improvise, and he actually has a room in his curve for exactly a 3-drop, so I think that card is going to be great.
Yeah, Foundry Hellion, an easy pickup there. Chief of the Foundry would, of course, also be great for his deck. But yeah, the 3/2 for 3, a bit of a winner.
Okay, he doesn't see many black cards. I would be a little worried about that. Okay, Dawn Operative changes that.
Yeah, Dund Operative versus Thriving Grubs, 2 drops that can attack for 3. I think that realistically the Dund Operative is going to be easier for him to cast. But cast a Pillar Bug also if he's looking for an artifact creature here.
Yeah. Bilderberg is okay, but I think the Dawn Operative is much better. He's definitely going to have artifacts, and having 3/2 Death Toucher is pretty nice. The only thing I would be worried about if I was Paul was trying to formulate the game plan of how he would win. I mean, he has some expensive cards, but I don't think he has that many, as he sees Worldfest Monitor or a Prophetic Prison.
Yeah, Worldfast Monitor lets him be more aggressive. Prophetic Prism means that dream of potentially being able to play some blue cards as well is kind of alive. At this point, it seems like he's going down the red path, though.
Yeah, I think the Worldfest Monitor actually fits very nice into his plans, because he has quite a bit of removal, especially those Daring Demolition, so he can maybe keep his opponent off of the big creature and keep swinging with a menacing Worldfest Monitor, and is also a cheap artifact creature. Ooh. Hello, Metalwork Colossus.
Now, Metalwork Colossus gets cheaper for every non-creature artifact you have in play. Let's do a quick mental revision of what he's got in his deck. We know he's got some implements in there.
Yes.
Does he have any vehicles to help?
Nope. He had double servo schematic, which would help, but I don't think it was enough to entice him, and he actually did go for the Eager Construct, which I think is going to work pretty well with it in his deck.
I like an Eager Construct a lot. It looks like there's more good artifact creatures and indeed a bit more removal to consider here.
Yeah, he actually has a target for the self-assembler. He has a Cogwork Assembler that he could search up. It's an assembly worker, so that works. But I think Iron League Steed is probably the best card. The best card in the pack.
Chandra's Pyrohelix does fit the bill of cheap removal. At the moment, Fatal Push is the only cheap piece of removal he has, and actually there are a lot of good 1 toughness creatures in Aether Revolt, meaning getting it as a 2-for-1 is not too difficult to achieve. So here we see a pack back for Caterpillar Bug coming all the way around.
Yeah, the reason he picked up Pyrohelix was that he won't have trouble dealing with big creatures with the Daring Demolitions, but he might struggle with killing some of the smaller ones. And so Pyrohelix is gonna do wonders there.
So Paolo Vitor Damadorosa has shown that he can do lots of different strategies in this format. Morphis Doorbuster still in the pack here. That one might be interesting for him.
Yeah.
Another way of getting energy for if he wants to get through with his big double striker at some point. Also, of course, for clearing a path if he chooses to do so.
Yeah, Doorbuster is a pretty sweet card. There's a pretty late fortuitous find that I think it could be a good sideboard card.
Yeah, you can have sort of attrition-y matchups where you just want to be drawing into more threats, and fortuitous find will do that for you. If you can get a creature and an artifact, that's kind of ideal.
No one wants the Latnu Hellion here. A little bit surprised, but I guess it goes into aggressive decks, and not all of them generate enough energy to keep it around for long enough.
I mean, if it can get a couple of hits in, though, that's a sizable percentage of your opponent's life total.
Sure.
So we're just rounding out the end of this draft here. Paolo picking relatively quickly on these last couple of picks. If you had to rate how this draft has gone for Paolo, on your classic sort of rating out of 10, say, where would you place it?
I mean, he hasn't seen that many powerful cards going around, so I think I would place Paolo's deck probably like a 7. I think kind of like a middle of the road, but good enough. I think his deck could be enough to actually win the GP, but it depends on what the others are. And also in this format, I think it's a lot about the matchups you face, because I think if Paolo plays against a deck that has a lot of big guys, his Daring Demolitions are going to shine. But if he's going to play a more aggressive deck or even flyers, which I think is a big problem for Paolo, I think he might end up getting eliminated sooner than he would like.
Yeah, the decks that go wide could be a problem, but if they're going large, Paolo could be in charge.
Yeah.
We're going to be back with our next draft coverage. We're going to get to see Christopher